Welcome to Talking Out a Slot, the slot car podcast about all things Scalextric, Carrera, Slot It, and any other exotic brand that you race, rally, or just collect. I'm Nick.
And I'm Scott. Hello, everyone. In this episode, we'll be talking money. Are we paying the right price for our toys? And asking who races a £250 slot car?
And in other news, some kits to bash at a lower price point.
Ah, that's very much your sort of thing, bashing kits. What have you been up to? What have you bought?
Well, it's something caught my eye, Scott. It was...
Beautifully shoehorned. Beautifully.
It was a company called Atlantis, who I'd never heard of before, and they were offering a range of 1/32 snap fix kits, which I always like to turn into slot cars. And it turns out that these are old. It's reboxing, repopping of 70s, 80s kits. So I think most of them were Revel, but they might have been some others in the mix as well. There's things like a 71 Firebird. There's lots of dragsters, like, what do you call them? Street stocks, I suppose, and hot and funny cars. There's some proper spindly top fuel ones as well, which, you know, there is a small but dedicated slot dragster community, isn't there? I remember the first UK Slot Festival when it was at Brooklands, and they had the drag strip underneath Concorde.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to give it a go because I was racing 1930s cars in the clubhouse, but apparently it went very well. So
they brought it to the, I can't remember, it was the first or the second Toyota event that we did, and it's amazing. I mean, it was just it's such a bit like real drag racing though. The sort of initially try to go, oh wow, this is great, and then you think it's a lot of effort to put into something that you're running for 2 seconds or whatever. It's all right. What really appealed to me was the notion of the kind of feet and feet of track at the end with just lots of foam. Stuff. So the idea you just boom, you don't slow down, you just drive into this lots of foam. But sorry,
I'd be nervous.
So you've not bought a dragster then?
No, I have bought a 1982 Chevrolet Camaro, which is the angular one. Scalextric's done it in its IROC racing version, but this is a standard road car, which will be joining the Miami Vice fleet. Because in the very first episode, Crockett gets his speedboat stolen, and he goes off. He commandeers a Camaro, which is bright white with silver and grey stripes. And of course, the person who's stolen his boat actually turns out to be a cop from New York called Tubbs, and they become mates.
Ah, right. And it's an origin story.
Yes, exactly. So, an origin story of Miami Vice with a Camaro.
I mean, who hasn't made friends with the person who stole their speedboat? I mean, it happens every day. These days he'd just shoot them. They'd never get to talk.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be a really short series, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but really, yeah. I said that big one. There maybe is a series in, cop shows if they were real, They'll all last about 5 seconds or something. There we go. I know this is not very good radio, so forgive those who are. In fact, it's not even very good television because it won't be really sure. But you, as well as being Miami Vice, you've got a thing about professionals. That's mild obsession.
Yes,
I think
indeed.
we should call it the Professionals TV show for those who don't know, which was an 80s TV show, 70s, 80s,
70s into 80s. Yeah.
80s, okay. And not only do you build slot cars from the series, but you find the locations that the things were shot at, and you go and visit them. It's quite. I mean, talk about as a quest. It's quite a one. But you were doing well up in London the other day, weren't you?
Yeah, I went round Westminster and Whitehall because basically it was supposed to be Britain's answer to Starsky and Hutch. So 2 wisecracking guys in a fast car going around and solving. They weren't secret agents and they weren't police. CI5 was halfway betwixt and between, and sort of a law unto themselves. These days you can read it in a media studies course as being a fairly fascist organisation where, there's no right to reply. You just get duffed up and thrown into a cell. They drove 3 litre Capris, certainly for the last few series. Started off with a TR7 and a Dolomite. And I go around and find these spots. The first series was all outside of London. And then LWT, London Weekend Television, who commissioned the programme, sort of went, hold on, we've got this supposedly great programme about, butt-kicking detectives and set in London, and you haven't filmed an episode in London yet. So the whole thing then became based in London, which is actually a lot more of a pain to get around than the Bedfordshire, Berkshire, Hertfordshire countryside that they used for the first series. So, I've done most of the out-of-town stuff, and then I started, because I had to go into the central London yesterday, and got a few locations there. Alec, who's at our club, he runs a 4-3 TV forum, which is very much like Slot Forum, for people who loved TV in the 60s, 70s and 80s, and he organises tours of locations. So they went up to Manchester last year and did all the locations from Life on Mars, the pastiche 70s cop show that was done 15 years ago now, probably more.
Quite a while ago now, actually, yeah.
Yeah, quite. With Gene Hunt. It's 1973. It's dinner time. I'm having oops. That's...
There's so much in there that our overseas listeners are just not going to understand.
I've got the Life on Mars Cortina on the go. And it was followed up with a series called Ashes to Ashes, where he drove a Quattro, and they've just, and we're so disappointed, cancelled the final series. There was supposed to be another one. It's all written. It was in pre-production, and then they've canned it. So hopefully Netflix or someone will come galloping to the rescue.
And what Bowie song were they going to use the title from this time?
Lazarus.
Oh right,
from the last album, from the Black Star album.
That's all a bit dark, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh yes. Okay. And who knows what car would have been driven? But all the cast from both of the 2 previous series said, "Yep, we're in." And then BBC pulled the rug from under everyone at the last minute. So hopefully it will find some life somewhere. And then we've got more locations to visit. But Alec's famous for doing the Sweeney. He's done On the Buses. He's done all these great 70s TV shows and found all the locations. Apparently now the woman who lives in the flat that John Thor, his character Regan, she's now got so used to these guys turning up, because a lot of them turn up in period clothes.
In sheepskin coats.
Yeah, exactly. And flares. And stick-on sideburns. And, yes.
Weird.
Yeah, exactly. So we, in the slot car community, we're not that mad, really. I sort of have a foot in both camps, as does Alec.
Oh, yeah. I remember once going with the Jim slot car mate, and we went to a Subbuteo swap meet and tournament. And I quite like Subbuteo. But we were sort of standing there, and there was a kind of hush. There was about 12 tables, and they started all the games at the same time and then played for whatever it was, 15 minutes or something. And both of us kind of stood there looking, and we looked at each other, and they could just, without really saying anything, the thought went, God, look at these weirdos. But before we kind of got to the end of the thought, we thought, this is what we look like when we're playing toy cars. Everybody's hobbies are a bit weird when you look at it from the outside. Anyway, I don't think we've still got to... So your Camaro for the Snap Fit one.
Yes.
You remind Revel, on holiday many years ago, as in 12, 15, there was a gift set which was 3 Revel DTM snapped together cars, already painted and deckled and everything.
Those pre-painted Revel ones, they did a Peugeot 307 WRC. Who didn't? So if you can't get excited about the Scalextric one, the SCX one, the Ninko one, the Avant Slot 128th one, the Auto Art one,
which is beautiful. Auto Art one is the best one, I think, as more.
Yes, or you could fashion your own from this Snapfix kit. And there was a Volkswagen tow rag raid car as well, I think.
Yeah, it's yeah. Oh yeah, but the 309 cc, no, not 309, 306 cc.
Yeah.
Showing my age there, 309s when they were around when I worked at Peugeot. It's astonishing how many slot models of that there are. Because it's not like it's a 917 or some absolutely fantastic dripping in motorsport heritage car. It was just slightly gawky looking and not terribly successful. But obviously everybody, whoever was doing the licensing at Peugeot, rather than waiting to be asked, was clearly phoning everybody. We'd like to do a model. We'd like to do a model.
I'm a real fan of the road car and the rally car, which gets me shouted at an awful lot when I'm on rallies, because everyone goes, no, it was just marketing people, and it was, they had a perfectly good car, they could have made another perfectly good car, and marketing insisted it had to be this stupid car, and I'm like, yeah, but it looks cool. Sort of. If you like a car that looks the same going forwards and backwards, it's really cool.
It struggles to look. Most competition cars look quite kind of muscular, don't they? They're kind of haunched down and all that. It just never. It constantly looks like it's kind of jumping away. It's a cat scared by a spider. It's sort of, so.
But I love the fact that it had to stay a cabriolet.
Well, the roof didn't work though.
Yeah. Well, the roof
surely
was held
not.
in place by two wing nuts. The roof was bolted to the roll cage, but if you took those nuts out, it would fold exactly the same way as the road car.
No wonder that was crazy. There's no structural rigidity at all, other than the roll cage, obviously.
Mine's returning to the track tonight because we've got Modern Rally. And I was running my Ninko Citroen C4 WRC in the Sebastian Loeb Red Bull livery, and I can't make it go. The front wheels seem to be doing something dismal and bouncing the guide out of the slot on every right-hander. So I'm going back to my fail-safe Ninko Peugeot 307. So
okay. Well, in funny you mentioned bouncing, because I have to hand a rally car which does quite a lot of bouncing, which is my original SEX, but sold by Scalextric. You can tell because it's got that kind of motor in it, which I must have bought in 1985, 86, something like that. I love this car. I mean, it's been painted up a little bit and things, but the tyres are gone, and I'm struggling to find replacement SEX tyres. And then messing about, I realised that the slotted tyres off the Polycar set cars, the Subarus, seemed a reasonable fit. And so I've tried that. So I've fitted this with slotted tyres. My goodness, the transformation. In normal mode, going along, the front end does this. I mean, it just chatters along. Right. I don't know why. Lumpy wheels, out of street axles, the rubber band. In this designation, going fast, it's fine. Go at half throttle and it still flutters along. And I have no, despite my mechanical engineering degree, I can't work out why it would do that. Because the elastic band, so I get it in frame. So it's an elastic band to the front, but I mean, it takes almost no resistance whatsoever to it, because I can turn the front wheels and the back ones definitely don't turn. So I can't imagine that it's some sort of transmission bounce. Anyway, tyres. I'm on a slippy slope. So, the man who poo-pooed openly on this show, anybody who bought tyres when they bought a new car, is now buying tyres for all his cars.
I think after, 37 years, you're sort of allowed to buy tyres for a slot car.
Allowed to buy tyres. But the dreadful thing is, if you buy them in bulk and you don't fit them straight away, I'm using you in a general, me, I buy them in bulk and I don't fit them straight away, I end up with just a lot of tyres kind of lying around, and then I go, I'm sure I've got some of them, and then I'm trying to pair up something and find, is that the right one, is that right? So I need a life, hitherto unknown in my life, sense of organisation and cataloguing where I can store these tyres in something and then fit them to the cars as necessary. Anyway, just you mentioning chattering.
Got some boxes with very small dividers in them. I shall bring those over when we have a run on your track, and you can stick as many tyres in those as you like. 'Cause I got them for free when Lawrence at the club was having a clear out, and he's like, I've got these little plastic boxes with multiple, 8, 10, whatever. dividers in. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine. I think they're, for washers and screws and sensible things like that. But they work perfectly well for slot car tyres, and I'm just not organised enough to ever use them. So you probably would get more value out of them.
Oh, I'm not organised. I think I confessed earlier that so I've been having little slot rallies to myself, and that involves getting the cars out and running them, and then getting some more cars out and running them, to the point where I think I did count reasonably accurately, so there's just under 90 cars sort of parked around the circuit at the minute of rallying form. And so this week's task, which I haven't quite girded myself to do, is to relocate and re-meet up the car with the box, and I've got to do that 90 times. Wow. I'll be spending a lot of time in this.
Wasn't the box for that Quattro cardboard? Does it still exist?
The original box for this Quattro I burnt, because when I moved house many years ago,
of course you did,
and I had a whole load of. I had all the cars were in their boxes, but they were just taking up space, I thought. So I burnt all that. I can remember standing in my back garden in Northamptonshire, casually throwing perfectly good Scalextric boxes into a fire. So no, this now lives in a Ferrero Rocher box, which are, as you know, slot car boxes which come with free chocolates. I think it's an excellent marketing idea.
My ambassador with this Audi Quattro, you are spoiling us.
Yeah, something like that. Right. Anyway, back to the plot. What? I interrupted you and went way off on a tangent.
Well, it sort of brings, because let me reach onto the shelf of cars what I've written books about. And
there's quite a lot of those, Nick. There's quite a lot of those, Nick. There's quite a lot.
Yes, quite. So Audi Quattro, we're talking about prices of things. Now, you can get one of those Quattros that you've got for pennies on eBay or at a swap meet, unboxed, and it'll run all day long.
Might bounce a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, the original Fly Quattros, they're perfectly fine. As some people complain about them, but we've had 4 of them as lane cars at the club since they came out in, 20 years ago? Must be. And yes, we've changed opinions for slotted ones, but apart from that, box standard. And they run beautifully. We even took them to Home Farm, because we did an inter-club challenge, and we all had to take classes of cars to run, and we took the Quattros, and they went absolutely brilliantly on wood, on standard tyres.
Smooth track, yeah.
And they bounce along happily on their drop arms at Farnham. But and Fly reissued them a couple of years ago in this wonderful China Rally livery from 1985. There's this one, which is the Andy Dawson car, and if I go onto the shelf, there's this one, which is the Henry Mikkola car, and they're beautiful things. They are exactly Fly things. The wheels are slightly different, and the inserts are not inside the wheels; they stick out, which is odd. But look, I cannot make the wheels turn because the thing's seized solid. Both of them are exactly the same. And those were a good 50 quid when they were released. And now, if you can find one for less than 75 on eBay, well done, you found a bargain. Whereas, those old Scalextric ones and SCX or Spanish Scalextric or Xin or whatever they were, they'll run all day and you can get them for pennies. So I think that's a good buy. I mean, they look like Quattros. The Lancia and the Porsche 911 and everything. I mean, those are the ones that I got. We'd go on a family holiday to Spain once a year, and I was allowed to bring back one slot car. And I've got a Lancia 037, I've got a Porsche 935, and I've got a Porsche 911 from those holidays. And they were always sort of light years ahead of our Scalextric in terms of detail.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, I guess I assume people know. I didn't know at the time. I was just walking past a model shop window going, wow, those new slot cars look really good. They're not sort of blobby moulds anymore. Like the SD1 or the TR7 or whatever. And there was the Quattro, the 037, and the BMW M1, and the Ferrari 288 GTO. In my mind, they all came at the same time. At Scalextric UK, we're using Scalextric Spain bodies and chassis, but putting the local motor in it, and Tampu printing the bodies, whereas the Spanish versions were still using stickers at that time. So arguably, at the time, the UK cars were probably better than the Spanish ones, but fantastic. I mean, they were a revelation at the time. I mean, as big a revelation then to me as Fly would be, another 15 years on, sort of thing. And they're still some of my favourite cars and models, partly because of nostalgia, but partly because the cars that they are models of are cars that I have a huge affection for. But as you say, they're robust, they work. The proper, that balance, that Venn diagram of model and toy, and which are kind of, these things really do very well. But anyway, not enough nostalgia. What it means, of course, is what I do eventually put the 90 WRC era cars away. I'll probably have to get out the Group B cars, which there's probably a similar number. You'll have to come over and help me run a rally.
But also, and for Slot Rally GB next year, I mean, having done a couple of events at Abergavenny, you can now get 3D chassis for those 80s models, and I've seen a couple of very rapid builds with, long can motors and the right short gearing for most rally stages with those old SCX/Scalextric bodies on. They work a treat.
Yeah. I haven't. My slippy slope. I'm buying tyres. I haven't yet started buying 3D chassis. Tune in future episodes for the further.
I believe they're available from only £8. £8 for a high performance chassis.
Yeah, but then you have to buy, axles
Slotted
and bushes
parts
and stuffs. Yeah. So it is. Which brings us back to the price of cars, really. So I quoted to. David says that every car, all slot cars cost 90 quid. You either buy a 90 quid car that works out the box, or you buy a 50 quid car that you have to spend money on tyres and motors and pinions and stuff.
He's a bit shy of some of the new releases, let me tell you.
Yes, that's true. Well, there's one which I think we're going to you tell. There's a new release.
There's not much in the way of new releases this week, but what we have got is the arrival of the Avant Slot Mercedes W196 on its high-speed transporter, which I think is one that you've been looking forward to.
I'm having to resist a lot. I'm having to resist a lot.
There's 250 of these worldwide, and they are 250 quid.
I think that's a relative buy. When you think the transit model, the rally support vehicle model that they did, they were about 250 quid, and that was just for a van. This is for a 50s Grand Prix car and something. So I see. It all depends how you look at it. You might say it's 5 Carreras. I would agree with you, but then I'd say it's only equivalent to one. It's only one transit, and I can see your point, and but no, I mean it's just interesting that we're now sort of numb to it in a way. 250 quid slot car, it's not big news, is it? It's quite good value, in fact. It's just the way things are going. And also the Le Mans Miniatures Mirage has come out, which is 105 in sterling. I think it's about the 100 mark in euros if you live in the Eurozone. And it's probably about the same in dollars. Yen and other currencies are available. So, apparently, though, the Le Mans Miniatures Mirage is a little bit disappointing if you just take it out of the box, put it on your track, and pull the trigger. It is basically a static model with a guide full of slotted parts, which is pretty much what people have always said about Le Mans Miniatures cars. They are bought as collector's items. They are bought for display purposes. Some of them can be made to go well. I have my one and only Le Mans Miniatures car here on the shelf of cars I've written books about, which is the Porsche 962 GT, which obviously was the cheaty Le Mans winning car of '94. Yes, very cheaty, but yes.
It's a road car, honest, gov. Um,
Yeah.
Go down to your local Porsche dealer and you'll find one there. No, you won't. But there we are. So, yeah, those ones can apparently be made to run quite nicely. I haven't experimented to find out because mine is a slot car that just sits on the shelf on display. Who'd have thought of that?
Well, I've got a few low miniatures. All were bought second-hand stroke as shop returns.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore all of them had bits that had fallen off, basically. So mirrors, headlamp lenses, or whatever. All of which were easily reattached. And I think I run them. I tell a lie. I've got one that I was given, which was the Renault Le Mans car. So it's fine. It's very old. I mean, that's from nearly 20 years ago. But they do run, and I do run them. You couldn't race them just because they're too heavy. That's the biggest. Or you could race them. They wouldn't be competitive because they're too heavy. But I kind of like the fact that they exist. I think that's quite a nice sort of subset of the market where they tend to make things which nobody else makes. So if you really want that car, then that's the way to get it. And I guess it's only the equivalent. So you could have two other cars or that one. I don't know. I argue this stick both ways depending on how I'm feeling. Don't I? Buy lots of cheap cars and have fun. Buy one really expensive car. The Avant Slot Transporter, I am having to resist. I have to say. I think it's yeah.
It's a nicely done thing. I see that the Mercedes is front motored.
Yeah, probably. I'm assuming it'll be roughly the same as a Cartrix one, because they should be roughly compatible. But
yeah, and
I also wonder because a lot of the pictures I see of the Transporter, I've got the Streamliner on the back, and I wonder if in the future, having gone to the trouble of making this, they'll do another 250 with a Streamliner on the back. Now, and that would be even harder to resist. So I may put myself into that sort of position where I'm waiting for something I don't know is ever going to come.
I hope the racing cars come out individually, sans Transporter as well at some point. There aren't enough W196s in the world. I think the Cartrix one doesn't really look like one. The Cartrix 50s F1s don't really look like any of the cars that they were sort of based on because they've sort of gone...
You nitpicker.
Wide
of course.
And low, and just sort of... Yeah, I know, but that's a £20 car. Yeah.
I'm fond of the Cartrix ones, not just for the dusters, but I thought it was terribly sad at one swap meet or other I saw. It must have been earlier this or late last year. And there was just like a pile of Cartrix dusters. So for those who don't know, so these 50s cars came in a tin box, old-fashioned tin, into which was a lovely resin sort of plinth that the car screwed onto, all wrapped in a yellow duster, which were printed with the silhouettes of the cars. Beautiful, lovely presentation of a slot car, etc. And then when I saw these pile, I thought, these have all been separated from tins and cars. That's dreadful. Someone's just sort of opened the box and almost chucked away the thing. But shame. I've never used them for dusting. I've used that. Maybe we should go into the merch department and get some Talkie Utter Slot dusters done.
Sounds like they go down a storm.
There's a gap in the market for dusters. Anyway, so, but you going back to the prices of things, you were doing some what would it cost in the past thing, weren't you?
Well, which was slightly sparked by a conversation, funnily enough, about returns. So you have been snapping up returned Le Mans miniatures at a bargain price. I don't know if that happens at Scalextric, but on the NSCC chat page on Facebook, there was a chap who said that he had returned 29 slot cars this year. to Scalextric, or the vendor that he'd got his Scalextric thing from, and he'd taken matters up with Scalextric about why he was returning all his cars. Now, he did put some really, really magnified photographs up where you can see blemishes, but yeah, I'm not sure that I would have ever sent any of those back myself. Yeah, just sort of the returns, and people were going, wow, it's not fair for, £50 to be returning cars. I'm like, well, yeah. So it did a little calculation, and obviously back in the late 70s, early 80s, mid 80s, cars were £4.95, which with inflation is about £18-19 today. So yeah, if you're judging a slot car that's a pure slot car, you're not going to put it on display, no one's going to thank you if you do, the TR7 / Rover SD1 that we used to have, the triplex one, few of those cars would really sort of cut the mustard as display pieces, unless it was a slot car history museum. But when I got back into slots, which would be 2002-3, new Scalextric cars were $25.99. It's things like the Cadillac, the MG EXP, whatever LMP2 car. A
very lovely model, I have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
The complexity of the shape and everything is,
yeah. There was the Astra DTM, because I bought one of those to race at Oxford.
Yeah.
But apart from the Mr. Blobby driver figure, which everyone banged on about, the shape of the car, whilst to some eyes, for me, the Type G Astra, beautiful, absolute thing of beauty. Yeah, there we are. They were $25.99, which inflation adjustment to today, £53, which is what you have to pay for a licensed James Bond or something. Rather than or a particularly intricate piece of engineering, such as the new Land Rover. I think that's coming out at $53.99, isn't it? Or is it $49.99? Because they haven't got a...
Don't know. I haven't got one of those in order.
What?
It reminds me, in my old... That's a Land Rover that'll just... I mean, I hope it doesn't work, because then it'd be faithful to the brand. But then...
You didn't say that, Simon. You didn't say that.
No, it would be true. Land Rovers break down. That's just a why. It reminds me when my days as an Austin Rover PR, some mini anniversary was coming up, and I remember doing them. A mini then, so this would be mid '80s. Inflation adjusted cost less than it did when it was launched. The minis had in real terms got cheaper. Whether they've got any better is a debatable. There's people who didn't like things like windy windows and actual door handles. The price. I mean, the price. We talk about this quite a lot. I wonder if we're in for a Christmas price rise or a New Year price rise that's going to give us a big shock.
I think that's out of our hands, isn't it? At the moment, it's
well, yeah, but it's. I can see the thinking about it, but. Because we had a biggish one at the beginning. Anyway, we'll find out. But we might. Yeah, anyway, it begs the question: if we'd bought something 20 years ago, what would have been the best? Quick off the top of your head, investment advice. What would you have bought 20 years ago that would be worth a lot now?
Good. It swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Because things go up and down in value. Like you couldn't buy a Ninko McLaren F1 GTR for less than 60 quid a few years ago, and now 10 a penny, 20 quid.
Yeah.
You just cannot guess where it's going to go with the market. And I know that people have successfully, I think, profited from having lots of unused mint boxed Scalextrics tucked away, but can't be that much, really.
Well, I don't know. I've never heard any. I know people have sold collections for a lot of money, but whether that equates to
spend a lot of money buying
more, yeah, they had to spend a lot of money buying it. So, which I should put a little plug for the episode 40, which is a conversation with Gareth, buying his building up his collection and then selling his collection, which I'm still at the stage of the parabola, which is I can't envisage doing that. The trauma of having to sell them would be life without a slot car.
Because one of the cars that's available for or rarely available and costs a lot of money when it is I think it's last year's Scalextric club car, the black Ari Vatanen Escort, which seems to be changing hands for 70-80 quid, or at least it's being advertised for that. Whether or not they sell is another matter.
There's a different question. Yeah,
one being advertised at the moment on a forum for 50.
Don't give away too much.
Exactly, 55 quid plus postage.
Buy it.
Yeah, I'm sourced because I made that livery using decals that I actually commissioned from Mr. Rally Slot Decals, who now sells his stuff through Atalaya in Spain, and he didn't do white decals very well. That's why he moved to Atalaya, because they can print everything really nicely. So my beautiful black paintwork on my SCX, which was glossy and wonderful, put these decals on, and they looked great for about 5 minutes, and then my white stripes sort of faded to grey faster than Steve Strange at an 80s disco. And
yes,
it was just horrible. So I had to strip it and redo it as a white car. And I've always looked at that Scalextric one and gone,
well, I'd been told that model wasn't, that the Scalextric version of the Escort wasn't very good. It's got lots of issues, so I hadn't bought any. But when I saw that come out, that made me rejoin the club, because it was the club car for 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And so I signed up just to get that car, and I think it's the old story. Put different tyres on it and it'll go 90. But yeah, it looks like an Escort, goes sideways easily. So yeah,
I tell you what,
if you want to buy it,
Scalextric, let's hope it's Simon in his infinite wisdom, has been putting out social media videos of their cars without magnets. They've been letting them go sideways.
Well, not only that, but I saw that the McRae Subaru crashing a lot, which so there's a reel which is just the endless crash. Every corner it crashes and rolls. What
struck me about those videos was the sound. Now, geek out, why not? But the McRae Subaru sounds almost silent. It sounds like it's a purpose-built non-magnet car.
It's in the air most of the time.
It's getting current.
There's no current going through the motor.
But when its wheels are rolling, they're just sort of like that. Whereas the Cobra, it's got your Quattro's chassis problems all the way around.
Yeah.
And the Mark 1 Escort, the Embassy one, again, very tempting car. That one's sort of halfway betwixt and between the two. It's slightly rattly. It's not as smooth as the Subaru. But well done to Scalextric, I have to say, for putting out social media videos of the cars as they should be. Sans magnets.
Sans magnets. And this touched on, and you know where I'm going to go here, with the Colin car crashing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's because that's authentic. He didn't crash all the time, and he was irresponsible hooligan. So I thought that was. I hope that was why they were doing that. It fitted in. But as I said, I was again, because I'm running all these rally cars, and I list them all and pick them all up, and part of identifying them is I have to look at which drive, because if I've got 6 blue Subarus, I have to look at the driver on the side window to find out which one I'm meant to be running. And I wondered to myself, and it was with a McRae Focus in this instance, as I was driving it, and it came out the sort of top bend of my track, completely sideways. And I thought, well, that's very authentic. That's how he would have done it. I wondered if I drive, and therefore if others drive, do you drive the car differently, almost subconsciously, because of who the driver is? What's the name on the side window? For Villeneuve, will you be a bit more extravagant? For a Prost, would you be very precise and all that? So you would. So yeah. So it's one of my new toy theories is that you drive the car a little bit like it's supposed to be driven by whoever the driver is supposed to be in it. Tumbleweed. Scott spends too much time on his own.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to bring a Vatanen Escort over at some point and try and drive it Harry style, which would be quite like Collins. Every third corner I'd come off as opposed to every second corner.
Well, I think it's why I love when you're playing. The rally cars are more fun because actually, going sideways round the bend just feels like what they should be doing anyway. Whereas it's not quick, but if you drive the car quickly, it's kind of very dull. Whereas if you're using a Le Mans car, that kind of looks more like it should do. It doesn't look right when you've got an LMP car bouncing off the barrier when it's going round.
Slotted Group Cs are so much quicker if you don't slide them. If you,
I think everything is. I think it's a deceptive thing. This sort of tail wagging about everywhere looks fantastic, right? It's a really neat, is the way to go. It's difficult and it's a bit boring, and it's just me, but that's fine. So let's see. I spend too much time, but just go and buy that Escort. You want to. You're going to want to.
Possibly. But what else are you buying? Come on, what are we shopping for in the next week or two?
Tires, pinions. I've still. I think of my orders, my pre-orders still to be fulfilled are the Scalextric Mirage, which will hopefully be more track friendly than you've mentioned the Le Mans Miniatures one.
I can vouch for the fact that it's been designed as a racer.
Oh, there you go. So I'm looking forward to that. I think I'll revert to trawling the tables, looking for bargains. Basically, the sort of thing you can buy for 10, 15
coming up, haven't we? Orpington on the 19th of November is the next big one, isn't it?
It is, and I can't remember whether it's the last one that Phil's organising or it's the first one that the NSCC are organising, or anyway. I quite like Orpington. It's a good small. It's sort of it's got a slightly different character to some of the other ones. You tend to get a lot more scratch buildy stuff there. So it's good for tyres, for oddball stuff usually. Slightly more over the horizon. Scale Auto Mitsubishis. Looking forward to those. Yeah, that's about it. And we're getting, it now feels as though we're within reach. We're kind of a couple of months away from
I'm slightly
range
upset
so.
Not to when I was in Spain and I found that the local model shop had got those Scale Auto white kits in at €38. It's really kicking myself to have not bought one of those now, because they're a lot more than €38 in this country.
Yeah, I was going to say we should probably do a future show what we would like to see in the announcements for next year.
Yes.
So that would be a good what we'd like to see getting sold. What about you? What are you?
I'm slightly optimistically hoping to find an SCX Danny Sordo Hyundai for less than the cost of my house. Because that seems to be the way those have gone. You can get your Nils Solans livery, no problem at all, but there's a reason for that. It's Nils Solans. It's not an actual rally-winning car. And that Rally Sardinia I reported on for Autosport, and it was one of the best rallies of the year. It was sort of, I said it was like an episode of Inspector Montalbano, because everything's going wrong and everyone's doing everything wrong, and there's a bald-headed, slightly stroppy Italian man trying to hold it all together, and in the end he eventually gets it put all into the right place, and they did manage to get Sordo across the line first, but it was sort of an uphill struggle. So I'd love to get that car at some point. As a R50 Mini Cooper driver, I probably should have a slot version. I'm thinking Ninko rather than Scalextric, because the Ninko one has the pretty wheels on it and probably goes a bit better non-mag. And then all these returned Scalextric cars, maybe some might turn up cheap. So I could get a Goldfinger Mustang, which would be a good Miami Vice car. I have to take the lady out, but I have a purpose for the lady. If I do take her out, she can go into George Harrison's Mini as Patty Boyd. Ta-da!
Wow, that it's meant to be. It's meant
It
to be.
clearly is, isn't it?
The planets are
and
aligning.
I'd sort of like a Scalextric XJS as well. I've got the George Turner resin one, which is, I think, just looks to my eye better proportioned as the Group A race car, but the Scalextric one looks good as the road car. Read into that what you will about Tom Walkinshaw Racing, but yeah, the Scalextric one looks fine as a road car. They did the special edition one for Coventry Museum or something, which has got a fairly foul design on it, but you could easily sort of take that off and put it into a normal XJS colour, or make it the Saint white one because it's got the same wheels as the Saint's car. All sorts of things you could do with that, and I just would quite like a Scalextric XJS. I know that those who've tried them in our classic saloons class, it's not a saloon, but it was homologated as one, they find them a little bit troublesome to race against other more potentially competitive cars. It's just a bit long.
Yeah, I think it's scale accuracy is I think it is accurate in the sense that it's long and thin, because cars, especially 70s cars, were long and thin. I got the Motul one instantly. I waited for the green one rather than buying the Australian issue one because I knew they had to do it. And now I've got my fingers crossed that they'll do the white with green stripe Motul version, which, if anything, is my favourite. If you're listening, Simon. But yeah, no, that's. Yeah, I know what you mean. It rides a little high. It could do with being a bit lower and a bit squatter and all that good stuff, but it's better than Nout.
I'm quite looking, because my season will have finished by then, so Orpington's going to be the first one that I've got a ghost of a chance of getting to, and I'm quite excited about that.
We should probably wrap up, shouldn't we?
Before
we convince ourselves to go and
put
buy
our toys away for another week.
£250. No, I'm going to go out and play with mine. Well, I have to put them away. Actually, that's true. I do have to put some toys away, just to make room to get even more of them out.
So I've got at least 6 cars, which will be out and about.
Okay, good stuff. Well, do you want to do the outro then? You did the intro. You can do the outro. I'll say goodbye.
Well, he said goodbye to me too. We've both said goodbye at once. Yeah. Mike.
Right. Well, I'll call it. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone. See you next week.